Is a zero-tolerance program with random tests for anabolic steroids and other illegal drugs on an average of 4 times per year, which exceeds the frequency of testing in comparable programs in competitive sports, making it one of the most aggressive programs in the United States. And for more on the state of pro wrestling in the aftermath of the death of Chris Benoit and the murders police say he committed, we welcome Dave Meltzer, now with much shorter hair. He's the editor of Wrestling Observer newsletter. We're also joined by former pro wrestler Lance Storm. He now runs a wrestling academy in Calgary, Alberta. Lance, you and Chris Benoit spent many years working the same circuits. Most people describe Benoit as easygoing, a true pro, someone who is devoted to his son. What do you think happened to him?
Well, I think it's a combination of a lot of factors, and I think that's what's causing the problem is everybody's trying to point their finger at one thing. Was it steroids? Was it roid rage? And I think pinning it on one thing is too simplistic. I think obviously, they found practically a pharmacy of drugs at his house. I think steroids might have been a contributing factor to his mental state. Pain pills were a contributing factor. Job stress, marital stress, family stress. I think all of those factors combined to obviously, make him snap. And again, I didn't know him as well as people think I did. We actually were in different promotions or on different brands when we were in the same company the majority of our careers. So we were email and phone friends, but we didn't, I don't think I ever spent time with Chris outside of the arena area. So I wasn't as close to him as a lot of guys were.
Dave, as Lance said, and we said in our report, steroids have been linked to the case, obviously. What have you been hearing about the state of the investigation?
Well, I mean, again, I really agree with Lance. I think that by blaming it on steroids, you're taking a very lazy approach but steroids may have had a factor. All the other drugs may have had a factor. Concussions, he may have had undiagnosed concussions but whatever it is, he was not in his right state of mind, and I can't fathom, why he did what he did, and we never will be able to, other than the only thing that I can say is that something snapped in his brain, and we have to look at many different factors: marital stress, stress of the road, paranoia and then steroids may have contributed, antidepressants may have contributed. These are all different aspects of what happened.
Lance, WWE is saying that Benoit passed his last drug test in April. It says that its talent wellness program is cleaning up the industry. How much truth is there to that?
I think there's a lot of truth to him probably passing. I actually read the wellness program when it was first published and put out on their website, and at the time I didn't realize how big of a loophole it was, but if you read the policy, if you test positive for any drugs, you're required to prove a valid prescription from your primary care physician, and if you have a valid prescription for that drug, it doesn't class as a failure. And obviously Chris Benoit had a lot of valid prescriptions from his primary care physician, which for the most part lets WWE off the hook, because he's got a doctor who's qualified, or at least supposed to be qualified, saying, yes, Chris Benoit needs all these medications. So the fact that he may have passed his drug test in no means whatsoever says he wasn't on drugs. And I think that's obviously a loophole that needs to be looked at. And when the policy was originally out, I didn't realize how easy it was going to be, obviously, for these guys to still get prescriptions from their primary care physician. And I think now, in hindsight, they're going to have to eliminate that loophole and come to the realization that if one of our athletes needs pain medication, prescriptions, antidepressants, steroids, whatever else, he isn't healthy enough to be performing on our roster, and while we may not fail him for his drug test, we need to sit him home until he can perform without medication.
Dave, what's the likelihood that loophole, which is enormous, might be closed soon?
I think I expect that some loopholes will be closed soon, but Lance is talking about a situation where if a guy needs painkillers to perform, be sent home until he's healthy. I question if that will happen in this business. I mean, it would be great if it did, because you wonder how many people could perform. There are guys, it's like, I don't want to say that everyone in this business, and Lance is obviously an example of this, has gone through this, but many have, and there have been many tragedies, and there has to be something done to lower or do everything to eliminate the tragedies, and that would be a thing. And I don't think it's going to go that far to where if someone's going to be needing prescription medication, they're sent home. I mean, that'd be wonderful, but I can't imagine it going that far.
Yeah, I don't see it going that far either, but I think the thing that everybody keeps missing the boat on, and this is what always gets me angry, is the boys keep putting that perception out there that we need these medications for the bumps and bruises and aches and pains of the industry. And I think that's a crock. I think the majority of people that get on drugs is just their way of dealing with hardships on the road. And when I broke in, I can't count the amount of times in my first, month in the business that I had all the veterans saying, I'll give you 6 months till you're hooked on pills. And it's just the accepted norm. And in this industry, there's an expression, perception becomes reality. And it's meant under the concept, if you act like a star and present yourself like a star, you'll become a star. But I think also, too, if we promote the perception that you have to have drugs, this industry is too physically demanding, you need to have drugs, it's becoming reality and people are believing it. And I don't think it's true. We've got, we now wrestle, WWE does at least, 2/3 the road schedule they did in the original Hulk Hogan era. They've got doctors at every show. They've got trainers with ultrasound machines, stim machines, ice packs, proper medical advice. But a lot of the mentality is still stuck in the past, and a lot of it's the boys buying into their own hype. And I think,
Lance, I'm afraid we're going to have to end it there. We appreciate your insights. Lance Storm, Dave Meltzer, thanks so much for having joined us. And that brings us to our poll question. Which of these activities that take place on the canvas are you most likely to spend your time watching? Boxing, mixed martial arts, pro wrestling, or none of the above? To vote, log on to ESPN.com, select the ESPN